It is my privilege and joy that we can continue our Bible study about the three angels' messages from Revelation 14. And we have today the subtitle, The Seal of God and Mark of the Beast, Part 1. We have seen the two messages of the previous angels, and now we come to the third. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, "If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up ever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them." So, as a short overview over this third angel's message, we see that we have two categories of people here. The one is that takes and follows the beast and takes his marks, and the other is the one that has the patience of the saints. The one is that prove that they are God's. And there are also those who get a promise for this time, because there will be many that will suffer death because of that mark of the beast, about that force that says in Revelation 13, it will kill everyone who does not bow down, will be not able to buy or sell. They will die. And then God gives the promise, no matter if you die, you are saved. Your life is alive because you are in God. You have the life of Jesus. And that life no one can take away from you, even though it might take away this life and put us into sleep. But before we see more about this in our second presentation, let us look to identify two things. What is the beast and what is to worship it? Because those are the keys. And if you know these two, then we also will know what it means to have the image of the beast and the number of the beast, because it's just a multiple explanation of one and the same thing in the matter of on whom we are dependent. So God has created this earth and everything belongs to Him. He made all creatures and He made them to depend on Him. He made humans, He made Adam to provide and care for the earth. So they were made with a clear purpose. In order to fulfill this purpose, they need to use means, which God provides them so that they can accomplish their task. Using the means in God's way as He gave them to be used, taking to give, is worship. So using the means in God's way as He gave them to be used, you take them and give them, is worship. Worship is dependence, either on God or on humans. Worship is not going to church. Worship is not praying or singing. Worship is not keeping a certain day. Those things can be part of worship, but they are not the worship itself. And here is it very important, because most people I meet, they believe it's about bowing down in front of a image, in sense of like the people in Daniel bow down. No, that was just a discovery whom one worships. Because the three showed that they worshiped God, but they worshiped God the whole time. Because then, when you are put into a certain situation, it just reveals whom you worship. Because that is just an evidence on whom you are dependent. So, yes, the church service can be worship, but it can also be not worship in God. It can be worshiping idols. Like we know it from the Bible. In the past, the Israelites worshipped idols there. So, and they kept the right day. They did, so to say, outwardly the right things. The rich young ruler worshipped idols. He worshipped humans. He was not worshipping God. Even though he said, I keep all the commandments. I go to church. I am, like Paul said, blameless according to the law. So let us make very clear. Worship is dependence on God. From the first thing to the last. It's never interruptible. That is worship. To use the means that in God's way, as He gave them to be used, taking to give. It's faith and works. That is worship. Not an external act. That external act is just a proof whom one worships. So after Adam's self-deception that he could be God, which all his descendants inherited, we as well, now people on this earth are divided into two groups. One accepts God's offer to get rid of self-deception, and they worship God. Because you cannot worship God in the old life. You need to let go of that on the cross and have the new life by which you worship God. You connect to God. You become consciously dependent on God. The other group does not recognize God and wants to take dominion over God's property. This group is worshipping people or creatures because they're dependent on creatures, on people. These are the two groups. The one that get away from the deception by dying on the cross and taking the new life of Christ. By this they worship God. And the other they protest against God's offer to get out of their inherent state of being where they were conceived and born, and they worship people. And when they are going to be called to take the mark of the beast or to worship the image, they will just show it with the external sign, but that was something they always had there in their hearts. Those who recognize their true identity as creatures and accept God's offer belong to God and are the group that God calls Israel. They are worshippers of God, and only they, because they are having the new identity by which they are the children of God. And those who remain in their inherent error and rebel against God despite knowing better are the group that God calls Babylon. They are human worshippers. And when a crisis comes, it is just shown up who you worship. The mark is just a sign who you worship. And we have seen in these last 3.5 years who humans worship. It was just a complete discovery. They have the name of God. They say they are Christians. They go to church. They have church service. And they worship humans. I estimate about 80% of the world is in the Babylonian worship, in the Babylonian state on bowing down to humans, believing that their health can be dependent on a magic fluid that can prevent them from terrible disease or death. That's nothing else than human worship. But the most people don't even see it. That's why when this thing will come with the mark, it will be like we have experienced it, similar. And people will just take it because it's for the good. It's for the well-being of the whole earth. And they don't see that it's worshipping humans. That's Babylon. And only a small group. It's not even in a relation like I made a picture here. A very small group. Like we have seen here, about 20% of the world population still have access to reason. God still has access to save them. So, let's look to Babylon. We have seen that Babylon wants world dominion because the world belongs to God. And He is the ruler of this earth. He is the owner of it. Babylon has the spirit of stealing God's property. Babylon wants to rule the world against God. That's the doctrine of Babylon. And since it's a doctrine, it's the anti-divine, it is represented symbolically in the Bible as a woman or a city. So these are the symbols in the Bible, and we can see them and we like them because we can explain what they mean. So the ideology of Babylon is dominion of the world against God. Now, we see this woman that we identified as Babylon sitting on a beast. And we read again, Revelation 17:3. So he carried me away in the spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We identified the woman as godlessness or wickedness, but I use this word in English because it is more plain what is wickedness. At least in my understanding, it's godlessness, it's lawlessness. But this ideology of Babylon demands worship. And it demands the worship against God. It demands to be dependent, the human should be dependent on her and not on God. So she's the opposite. We can call it the anti-divine, the antichrist. No matter how we do it, it is the same, because there can only be a God likeness going with God, a doctrine, or the godlessness. There is nothing more on earth. It's only these 2 ways of believing. So, in order that Babylon can exercise her power, she needs state power. So, in this beast, all state powers are combined and fight against God and His people. And in verse 16 of Revelation 17 says, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. How could the woman drink the blood of the saints? Well, by using the power of the state. So we see the combination, and we saw it in the last 3.5 years, how ideology about health and the power of the state came together. And they were together, combined, like they always work together. And that is this picture that shows doctrine and power, state power. And by this wrong doctrine, by this godlessness, the spirit of Babylon is drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Now, let us identify the beast, because we need to know who is the beast that the woman is sitting on. And here we have Revelation 17:8, and the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So, without going very deep into the study of this text, we just see something that is obvious I think, for everyone. The beast is a state power, because that's what the beast represents, which has been before and appears again. And it comes from the bottomless pit where the devil is living, or where he will also be shut down in Revelation. So it comes directly from evil, and it will be that power that goes into perdition. That is, when that beast power is there, it will meet Jesus personally when he comes in the clouds of heaven. So that's why it's important to identify this beast, because that beast is the last state power on earth, which it will encounter Jesus coming. And now we want to identify it. And there is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now we want to see it on what does the woman sit, because that's where the religious power is, on which state power it uses. And it says there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, so these 7 heads must be 7 kingdoms, 7 heads, and 5 are fallen. The 1 evidently must be, because there must be a continuous, and after it comes 1 short. But what comes after that? And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Now, here we need to have the wisdom when we look to prophecy and we look to symbols. There also are certain things we have to go to understand things in a simple way. So the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th. So that's the beast where the woman sits on, and is of the 7, and goes into perdition. So there are state powers, and they have 7 heads, and 1 head will come up again and will show up as the 8th, as the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th. So let's look. So it is the last state power that stands against Jesus at his return, as we have seen, and it is the beast that demands worship and gives them that do it the mark as a sign of their subjection. That's a sign of worship. So the mark is just a sign who you worship. And if they have the mark of the beast, then they worship the beast. So this last state power will be the one that demands worship. It demands that, because Babylon sits on it, the doctrine of godlessness. The anti-Christian or the anti-divine spirit demands worship and obedience from all the people on earth. Now, to make it even more clear, let's look to Revelation 13, 1 and 2. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. We have seen this in our last presentation, so here are all the powers of the earth together. And now comes the particular thing in verse 3 and 4. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Now here we see it's a head of the beast that was wounded. And we have to identify this head that was deadly wounded, because it becomes then the whole beast. It is the 8th in the order, but it was also before. And we want to see which head was before and was healed. And that becomes now to be represented as the whole beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beasts. So this is the eighth. That's the last power on earth, as we have seen, that goes against God. It's under the dominion, under the ideology of Babylon, of the godlessness, but it goes after. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beasts. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So here is a state power that is driven by the Babylonian doctrine, who comes from the bottomless pit, that is the devil himself, gives it the power. This is the last attempt. This is that which is at the end. I hope that we understand this. Because to this comes the third angel and says, don't worship it. Don't take its mark or its image. Leave it alone. No matter what it promises to you. It says the whole world, through it under the beast, who is able to make war with him. So evidently this is the whole world taking in. Now, we repeat again, so that we know it for sure. In the Bible, state powers are also represented with beasts. And Daniel 7:17 says, These four great beasts are four kingdoms that will come on earth. And in this beast on Revelation 13, we see the lion's head, we see the feet of the bear, we see the grease, the parter, and the leopard, and then we see this undefined image, the Roman Empire. Those are four kingdoms. But there are 7 kings, not only 4. And we know that what followed the Roman Empire was the Papal Empire. And Daniel showed that through the horns, that on this Roman Empire, from 3 horns became 1, and then it could speak and do things. It's very similar to the image of the beast that also can speak. So this is the 5th head. So the 5th head of the whole things is the Papal Empire. Is this the head that was wounded and got healed? And his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wandered after the beasts. So the 5th head of the beast is papal rule. And from history we see that it was wounded. It came to an end. It lasted 1,260 years, from 538 to 1798, which corresponds to the period of 42 months. That's the rule that we know from history the 5th head has. And we know it was a dark and bloody rule. Because it was ruled by the doctrine of Antichrist. It was ruled by force. And the kings were subject to it in the earth. So it got the deadly wound. But now the wound heals. And in Revelation 13:5-6 we read, And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. That was the previous power that the head of that beast had, the 5th head. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwelled in heaven. And if you read the parallel text on Daniel, you see that that little horn that grows up, that is the one that blasphemes God and rises up to heaven to take away what? The worship, to demand worship for itself, to be dependent, the humanity should be dependent on it. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. How many martyrs have been to that dark ages from 538 till 1798? how many saints have been killed, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. That's amazing, is it? And this is also the perspective of the second appearance. And all that dwell upon the earth, this is the second appearance, shall worship him whose name are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So here we see that the Bible very clearly says, when it appears the second time, it makes war. The same thing that it did the 42 months. And how many of the earth shall worship him? That is, how many shall bow down in front of it and be introduced in it? Everyone except whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So only those who are not written in the book of life of the Lamb will worship him. Those who are worshiping God and are written in the book of Lamb, evidently, they will stand against it. Those are the saints. But it looks like even in the last appearance, the saints will be like overcome. At least it looks like that. So it is the papal rule which has already reigned as the fifth head of the kings of the world for 42 months or 1,260 years. So the beast is the reappearance of papal rule. So when he appears as the eighth king, which is one of the previous seven, so he reappears as the beast, not as a head, but as the whole beast. He reappears as the eighth king, which is one of the previous seven. This one goes to perdition. It is the last state power which will be replaced by Jesus' second coming. So Jesus will destroy the man of sin with the breath of his mouth. So when we see this, that's why we study this, when we see the powers of this earth unite with a doctrine, like we have seen in 3.5 years, of godlessness. Because to believe that health is dependent on someone else than God is godless. Godless. Yes. So that's worshipping humans. And now here we have the clarity. When this is going to reappear, and we have seen how it works, and when it will reappear, it is the end. Because this state power, there will be no ninth, so to say, one of the, it is the last one. And when it appears, then the third angel's message is becoming its fullest power. Because then it must shout clearly, don't take its mark and don't worship it. But as we have seen that 80% already are gone, so to say, maybe God knows how many, maybe some will raise up in this short period of peace, but we see that majority does not even discern about what it is. The majority does not know even what is worship. The majority of Christians and believers. And so they will have no issues to just go like they went this time and just say, this is the good thing, this is saving the world, and we must be all united under one man and do what? Go against God. But it will not look like going against God. So now we find an also particular thing in Revelation 17, 12 to 13. The 10 horns are described there. They were not described before. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. In Revelation 13, the 10 horns have also 10 crowns, which very clearly means kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Now, the good thing is, when the papal rule was 42 months, which meant 1,260 years, a very long period. This time, it will only rule 1 hour, which is good news, is it? Because it will be powerful, but just for a short time. And these 10 kings that have not received the power then, because they will receive the power together with the beast when it appears. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beasts. So, what do we have? The number 10 stands for a whole, that is, all the world's state powers are united under the leadership of the Pope. Because we have identified the papal rule, and he is the man of sin, and they will all unite together under him. Yes, it's not yet there, but we can see that most state powers go to, so to say, to bow down in the Vatican, and they meet there, and they have good ideas, because he is not only a state leader, he is also a, they call him Holy Father. He has a religion, he has a doctrine, which, yes, must appear like godliness, while it is godlessness, while it is wickedness. But the devil must appear. His doctrine must appear like enlightening. It must appear like like an invitation. So this is just for a short time. That's why we see now that the world's power, and we see how they destroy the earth and how much God allows them to do. But it will come to an end. It will not be a long period while they will be powerful over all nations and everyone will worship him who is not written in the Lamb's book. It will be just a short time. This, until then, the wrath of God comes, and Jesus is coming in the clouds of heaven to meet these powers and to destroy them with the breath of his mouth. So we are standing in the last battle against God. The woman, that is the doctrine of anti-divine, is sitting on a state power. These, the Bible says in Revelation 17:14, the kings of the earth under the direction of the Pope, these shall make war with the Lamb. That is, they don't go exactly against the Lamb, but they go against his property, his people that worship him. They go against them to kill them, to destroy them, to force them into their own worship. That's making war with the Lamb. And the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So, yes, the Lamb will conquer the beast and all the doctrines that the beast is guided with. But we also, the called and chosen and the faithful, will conquer him. We might conquer him by dying, like Jesus conquered Satan by dying, because he couldn't force him to worship him. He couldn't force him to bow down in front of him or be dependent on him, or be dependent on his own power to make bread out of stones. Jesus overcame Satan by killing sinful nature and by this destroying its power. And we will prove by not obeying, by not being fearful. Either we are the chosen, that are the 144,000 and sealed with the seal of God, or we are those that are going to give our lives in this last battle. But in both ways, we overcome because the life that is hid in Christ, that we have taken by faith, no one can take away from us. They might kill the body, like Jesus says. They might take this life, so to say, to put you into a sleep. But they never can take the life that is hid in God through Christ. That life, no one can kill. The devil would like to. But as he cannot make them worship, they even go till death, but will never bow down to do anything a human asks them to do against God. To trust a human expert or to use a poison, to use something that is meant to be healthy. They won't do it because they are worshiping God. Their dependence is 100% on God. And by this they prove it. And it will be an honor for God, for us, if God is having us called to give our lives to Him as martyrs. It will be still an honor for us to die for His name's sake, to follow Him on the cross, but not to die eternally, but to raise up in a new and everlasting life. This is what God is offering us. And for this, we must prepare in this very, very short time that we have.